Good afternoon, everybody. It's another Wednesday. And as we all know, on Wednesdays by 12 noon, we are here for Cleavers Forge. Cleavers Forge is a weekly series for singles and it is powered by the married Trove. The essence is to get you forged so you can unlock healthy marriage and also enjoy marital bliss in your marriage. So, welcome to today's episode. It's nice to have you here. Please kindly share this link with your single friends and family members so they can join us today. We have a very interesting topic. But before we get into it, I would like to encourage you to catch last week's replay. Okay. Why am I saying that? Because last week I got a lot of feedback from many persons, and they were trying to tell me that there are certain lies they've believed, and it has kind of affected their relationship and the mindset they have about marriage. So I'm really happy they got to receive the right knowledge, and I don't want you to miss that. So please catch the replay so you would also get the right knowledge and the right mindset about marriage. And I also want to ask that if you have not subscribed to this channel yet, please click on the subscribe button right now. Every week, I'll be coming on live to coach you about marriage and building a healthy relationship. And please ensure you send this link to all your single friends, both guys and ladies, so that they can join this session. So, this week, our topic is very interesting, like I already said. It is why good men and women still stay single. And it's really not what you think. Yeah, I know you see a lot of accomplished young men and young women, and you're wondering, oh, why is this person single? So I want to delve into that and tell you why many of them stay single. Because there's this particular kind of singleness that confuses people. It's actually the singleness of an accomplished person. When you see someone who is accomplished, even in society will get to ask, why is this person still single? You know, we see this kind of questions when you see a very well educated man or well educated woman, a successful businessman or woman, a professional with a very good career, or a respected ministry leader. Sometimes it can show up as someone who is financially responsible, you know, a person with a good character, with a stable life, and genuine intentions. People look at them and ask, how can someone like this still be single? You know, everybody's wondering, you're so accomplished, you're so good looking, you have money, you have an admirable lifestyle. Even the person too sometimes begin to ask the same question. And the person might say, oh, I'm doing everything right. I'm responsible. I'm successful. I'm a good person. So why hasn't marriage happened yet? So that's what we want to talk about in today's conversation. Let's explore the different possibilities why such accomplished men and women still stay single. Sometimes the issue isn't that something is wrong with that single person. So that the person is not single because maybe something is wrong with him or her. No, sometimes something about their success, something about their lifestyle, their expectations, their identity, or even the environment where they are, maybe making connection more difficult than they realize. So in this session, we're not blaming accomplished singles. Oh. It's a beautiful thing to be accomplished as a single person. This session, we want to discover the hidden barriers that are easy for such accomplished singles to miss, precisely because those barriers have been disguised as strengths. So you get to see it show up and you feel like, oh, this is supposed to be a strength. Meanwhile, it could be affecting your relationship or your ability to build a healthy relationship. Okay? The truth is, some qualities that help you succeed in life can become obstacles in intimate relationships when they are not balanced. So, if you're joining me today, at the end of this session, I would like you to be able to understand why personal success does not automatically relate to, or rather, does not automatically translate into relationship success. Yes, you might have personal success and all, but that doesn't, immediately translate to relationship success. At the end of this session, for you cleavers, I would want you to be able to identify your hidden barriers that are stopping you from getting into a healthy relationship. I would also want you to be able to examine how your lifestyle, your identity, that independence you seem to have, and your social positioning is influencing your ability to build a healthy relationship. At the end of this session, I also want you to be able to distinguish between healthy self sufficiency and relationship isolation. You should also be able to develop a more balanced approach to love and relationships. So let's move on. As is our tradition every week, we like to anchor whatever we are learning on scripture. So the foundation scripture for today is 1 Corinthians 13, 4 to 5. And it says, love is patient, love is kind, and it does not insist on its own way. So love does not insist on its own way. What does that tell us? Love requires you being more than impressive. You could impress, yes, you could look good, carry yourself in a certain way and look all impressive, but love entails more than that. Love requires you to be able to make room for another human being. So it does not insist on its own way. So I actually have 14 lessons on this, but to help us utilize our time, I'll be taking you on part one of this series this week, and we'll continue with part two by next week. So this week, I'll share 7 of those lessons with you all. Then by next week, we'll come back and we'll take these other 7 lessons, okay? So please, let's get into the business of the day. Lesson 1, why are good singles or good men and women still single, okay? Let's see, what is lesson 1? Success can create a blind spot. Success can create a blind spot. You can be highly successful and still be difficult to build a relationship with. So, like I initially said, that you are successful does not automatically translate to relationship success. Okay. I know this thing I'm telling you sounds uncomfortable, but the truth is, your accomplishments do not automatically make you relationally acceptable or accessible. Okay. So you as a person, you can be brilliant, you can be ambitious, you can be wealthy, you can be attractive, you can even be highly educated and spiritually respected. And even if you have all of these qualities, you can still struggle to create genuine intimacy. Why is this? Because achievements, all those achievements you've gotten, focuses on what you've accomplished. But relationships focus on your ability to connect, to cooperate, and to make room for another person. So if you're not able to connect or make room for someone else, then it will be hard for you to build a relationship. Okay, so you see that these two things entails different capacities. So today I have a coaching question for you. Yes, you, that single who feels like, oh, I've gotten to that level. Do you really have room for another person in your life with all of your accomplishments? When we look at you as a speck, you tick all the right boxes. But is there room in your life for another person? So please make sure you sit with yourself and answer that question. Let's look at lesson 2. Lesson 2. I tagged it the independence trap. The independence trap. Independence is a strength, no doubt. But excessive independence can communicate, I don't need anybody. You're so independent that you don't need anybody in your life. So Some accomplished singles have become so competent at handling everything alone that now building a relationship or building partnership feels unnecessary. You see a single who can solve his or her own problems, can pay their bills, can make every decision for themselves. They're able to travel alone, build businesses alone, handle crises on their own. Do you know what that does? Eventually, they stop creating space for anyone else to contribute into their lives. Are you seeing? So how can you build a relationship if you have no room in your life for someone else? So I want to ask you, is there room for someone else in your life? You want to get married, right? Is there room for someone else in your life? Or have you become so independent that you don't need anybody? Let's move on. Let's see lesson number 3. I tag this as competence has become control. Highly competent people are accustomed to getting things done. Yes, because they are competent. They know what works. They know what doesn't work. They know how things should be done, and they're able to solve problems quickly. Yeah, that's why they are competent. But the truth is that marriage is not a corporate project. So you cannot manage a spouse the way you manage your employees or your project or your finances. No, that spouse is a human being, emotional human being. So I see the trap that many accomplished singles fall into is that they unconsciously bring that management mindset into relationships. So they always just want to correct, they want to optimize, they want to instruct. They come into a relationship, they want to take over, they want to solve problems. But intimacy, as far as relationship is concerned, requires connection first, and it also requires collaboration. you know so if you're just the one that wants to take control because of your competence, you want to take over everything, then you're not giving room for a healthy relationship. Nobody wants to be in your life and just have you control them. They're not coming into your life to be puppets, okay? So please remember that intimacy requires connection. And I have a question for you on this. Can you allow another capable adult to do something differently from the way you would normally do it? Would that be a trigger for you? Letting someone in and this person just wants to do something in an entirely different way. Can you allow that? Okay, so please answer that question. Let's move on. Lesson number 4. This lesson focuses on I don't have time. You know, that can be a barrier. I tagged it as the I don't have time barrier. So you see many accomplished people who are singles genuinely have demanding lives. you know yes, their career takes time, or building that business takes time, or building that ministry takes time. Sometimes they're even so committed to their extended family members that they don't have time, or they're traveling a lot, or they have professional obligations. And relationships require availability. And when we say availability, it's not just physical availability, also emotional availability. So you might actually have enough money for marriage, but do you have enough margin in your life for a relationship? Is there room for a relationship? So please, I want you to ask yourself today, is there actually room in my schedule for another person? Do I regularly make time for friendships? Or you're that kind of single that says you don't need friends, you're too busy to keep up with dates and all of that. Or ask yourself, am I constantly exhausted? If I am to get into a serious relationship right now, would it have somewhere to go? Let me tell you a truth. You cannot build intimacy entirely on leftover time. No. When you get into a relationship with someone, the person will know when you're just giving them only your leftover time. They want to be priority in your life. So Healthy relationship requires quality time. So if you're one of those singles that says, I don't have time, that's already a barrier to building a healthy relationship. So I want you to sit and look into that. Okay, let's move on. Lesson number 5. Your lifestyle may be too full for relationship stroke partnership. Okay, success often produces a carefully designed lifestyle. Your lifestyle is so well designed, you're comfortable with your routines, the way your apartment looks, your travel schedule, your spending habits, your social cycle, even your personal space. You don't want someone in your space. Your independence, I already mentioned this. Then someone enters your life and suddenly you have to negotiate these things. You don't like that, right? Yeah, it can feel very inconvenient. But the truth is that partnership, relationship requires adjustment. And I'm not saying that, oh, because you need to adjust, you abandon yourself. Oh, no. I said adjustment, not abandonment. Okay. So I think the question you should ask yourself right now is, what parts of my lifestyle are negotiable for the sake of building something meaningful with another person? Are there parts of your life that are negotiable, or every part of your life, your circle, all of those things, the way your apartment is set up is non-negotiable? It will make it difficult for someone to come into your life. So let's move on. Let's see lesson 6. I tag this the status gap problem. The status gap problem. Okay. Sometimes accomplished singles unconsciously search only within a very narrow social category. So they are searching within a very narrow social circle. You know, a lot of times it can show up as, oh, the person I want to be with must have the same level of education as me. They must earn around what I earn. They must have the same social exposure. They must be at my professional level. Yeah, compatibility matters. I get that. But social equivalence and relationship compatibility are not identical. They are not. So someone may have your kind of resume, or rather, someone may not have your kind of resume, and the person may still possess wisdom, integrity, emotional maturity, the stability needed for a healthy relationship to thrive. The person could also possess a very wonderful vision. They could be humble and kind. And you need all of these qualities for a healthy marriage to happen. So please reconsider. That person might not have your resume, but if they possess the right qualities, I think you shouldn't confuse relationship value to social status. Okay. So let's see lesson 7. And like I said, I'll be taking you on 7 lessons this week. And we'll continue this series, this particular topic, by next week. Okay. So let's see lesson 7. Why are good men and women still single? Lesson 7. Success can attract the wrong attention. Success can attract the wrong attention. Accomplished people sometimes struggle to determine whether someone is attracted to who they are or what they have. Did you get that? So because they are so accomplished, a lot of times they struggle with trying to know when someone wants to come into their life. They're looking at the person like, is this person attracted to the person I am or what I have? And this questioning can produce suspicion within them. Okay. So every interested person that comes into their life, they begin to question, do they want me or do they want my money? Do they like me, or is it my connections they like? Are they attracted to me as a person, or are they attracted to my lifestyle? Are you seeing? So Yes, so you need to be cautious. Caution is very okay when you want to get into a relationship, but constant suspicion can actually prevent genuine connection because you're suspecting everybody that comes to your life, you're just suspecting the person. No, I'm not saying that you should blindly trust people, but what I want you to do is to give room for wise observation over time. Allow people to demonstrate their intentions. Yes, their intentions to show over time through consistent behavior. So you can get to watch the people you're letting into your life and you get to see over time they'll be able to demonstrate what their intentions are. Okay. So if you are an accomplished single, you see that these things I've mentioned, these 7 lessons can be a barrier to you building a healthy relationship. So I want you to sit with yourself and see which of these things could be limiting you in getting into a marriage relationship. Okay, please sit with yourself. And for today's series, I have a self audit I would like you singles to take. I have like 10, they're not questions, they are statements. But what I want you to do is, I want to read out those 10 statements to you and I want you to score yourself. So for every statement I read out, please score yourself between 1 and 5, okay? Where 1 is the lowest score and 5 is the highest score. Like I said, it's a self audit. It's going to help you know, oh, if maybe there are certain things you need to work on, there are certain areas you need to improve on. Okay. So, as always, I advise you to have your notepad and pen. So, if you have your notepad and pen, please take these statements. There are going to be 10 of them and help me score yourself. Okay. So, statement number 1, I make room in my schedule for a relationship. So, score. If you make room adequately for a relationship in your schedule, score yourself 5. But if you don't make room at all, you're scoring yourself 1. So, but if you're in between, you can score between 2 and 4. Okay. So, the first statement, I make room in my schedule for a relationship. Please kindly score yourself. Statement 2, I allow others to contribute to my life. I allow others to contribute to my life. Have you scored yourself? Ask yourself and then score yourself, okay? Statement 3, I can compromise without feeling threatened. I can compromise without feeling threatened. Go ahead and score yourself. Statement 4, I am comfortable being vulnerable. I am comfortable being vulnerable. Statement 5, I don't evaluate people solely by status. I don't evaluate people solely by status. Statement 6, I can receive help without feeling weak. I can receive help without feeling weak. Please put a score beside it. Statement 7, I am approachable and socially open. I am approachable and socially open. Okay, have you put a score beside it? Let's move on. Statement 8, I allow relationships to develop gradually. I allow relationships to develop gradually. Statement 9, I distinguish genuine incompatibility from imperfection. I distinguish genuine incompatibility from imperfection. So the last statement, my lifestyle has room for a relationship. My lifestyle has room for a relationship. So did you get all 10 statements? Okay. So please, I know you've scored yourself, so kindly check your scores. Check your scores on all 10 statements. So I want you to also check what are your lowest three scores. So what are the lowest three scores you had? Okay. So those lowest three scores deserve attention. Please pay attention to those three areas where you scored lowest. Okay, and I'm telling you to pay attention to those areas not because something is wrong with you. No, 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 not at all. It's because I need you to grow in those aspects. Those places where you scored lowest. I need you to put in efforts in those areas and grow. Okay, please take note of those areas and begin to work at it. Okay. And as is usually our tradition, I always at the end of every session have reflection questions and action steps for you all singles. But because I have splitted this topic to part one and part two, we will take the reflection questions and the action steps by next week. Okay. So please ensure you don't miss next week's session because it's a continuation of today's topic. Okay, so we'll be looking at part two of why good men and women still stay single. Same time, 12 noon on Wednesday next week here on YouTube Live. Okay, so please, if you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, I implore you to click on the subscribe button now. So this is your free coaching series with me, Domie Asogwa, as I walk you through getting forged to unlock marital bliss. So keep a date every Wednesday by 12 noon. I am working at ensuring our sessions last within 30 minutes, so that I know it's usually break time now at work, so that you can catch the series quickly, So maybe on days where our topic is going to be so lengthy, we can break it into two so we can keep to time. Okay, so if you realize in the past few weeks, we try to keep with the 30 minutes mark. So thank you so much for joining me this week. I would like to see you next week. And remember, we have a free community for singles on WhatsApp. Yes. So if you want to get in, please kindly follow us on our Instagram page. Then click on the link in bio. You'll see the link to join our free WhatsApp community for singles. Okay, so there you have room to ask questions. You have room to interact with other singles. It's a community. And you would also get the reflection questions I ask in these sessions and the action steps in the community. Okay, so please kindly follow us on all our social media handles. It is at the Marriage Trove. So thank you so much, Cleavers. See you next week. We've come to the end of today's episode. Please enjoy the rest of your week. Bye, everyone.